therapy assistant program. And one of the first things that I want to bring up is exactly what occupational therapy is. Up there is the official version that if you read it 3 times very slowly, you will start to understand. But basically what we do is we work a lot with, it's very similar to physical therapy. We work with speech therapy and helping people that have had injuries, disabilities, or any kind of thing that has disabled them to get better. But we have a little bit of a different approach. I know I'm not downing physical therapy, but everybody who's been to physical therapy can say, okay, you go there and you do 10 reps of something and they work on getting you stronger, which is great. They work on helping people walk and do other things. What we do is we help people not only get stronger, but also go back to doing the things that they love. We help them learn how to cook again. We help them be able to take care of their children, do the hobbies that they enjoy. And so that's basically what occupational therapy is. And I took, for my service learning, was a fieldwork class where I was invited to go to Intermountain Medical Center, which is that big, huge hospital off to the east side of the freeway in Murray. I'm sure you've all seen it, but that's what it is. It's very fancy and cool. And I was on the neurology therapy floor, which basically is the one that takes in all of your strokes. I saw people with encephalopathy, which is a disease of the brain that kind of goes haywire. People with spinal cord injuries, brain injuries. We saw a person who had been shot in the neck and he was paralyzed from about the mid-arm down. So they take in all those type of people in the hospital and help them get better. And I was invited to go there for about 30 hours a week, or 30 hours total, 30 hours a week would be a lot. And I got to basically follow a COTA, a Certified Occupational Therapy Assistant, which is what I am planning on doing. I will graduate not this spring, but the following spring, and that's what I want to do for the rest of my life, is to be able to help people get better. And so it's quite a treat to be able to go and job shadow them for 30 hours. And my project is basically what's called Electricians kit, but we were asked in our class to do something that will benefit the clinic. They give so much to us. Like the COT I followed around everywhere, from 7:30 in the morning till 5:30 at night. And that can be taxing. To have someone following you around and watching your every single move, making sure you do it right, making sure that it makes sense. And I have followed 2 of them, both of them were extremely patient with me. They answered my questions, they let me see things that I was learning in school. They also showed me how to do documentation. And so they give a lot to us, and so as a result we're asked to give something back to them that will help them. And it also must be related to occupational therapy, obviously. We can't go and file their files for them. It's got to be something that would benefit occupational therapy. And IMC has a lot of things that they use to help people regain their skills. They have a kitchen that people can go and relearn how to cook. They've got different games that people can say to improve how they think. And they have a lot of things that are kind of a little more female-based. They got crocheting and sewing and crafting and scrapbooking. They don't have a lot of things that men like to do. I don't know about the guys in here, we probably don't really want to have to crochet in a hospital. Some might, but most of you don't. Cooking, maybe. And so that's kind of what they realized that they lacked. And so we got together and sat down and talked about different things that we could do. And one of the therapists suggested the idea of what's called an occupation kit. Something that we put together that is based on some sort of occupation or a job. We talked about maybe doing something to help people take care of pets, or what else did we talk about? Woodworking, welding. And the one that we came up with was an electrician's kit. And my kit basically contains things that someone would use to wire a plug or a light switch. Let's see, I've got the plug right here, and a little faceplate. And the box that it goes in. So it's kind of fun. I've got wire down here on the bottom, and then wire strippers and cutters. And then a screwdriver, wing nuts, and I kind of had fun. I learned a lot about how you wire an outlet switch, so I guess next time my husband does it, I can supervise and make sure he doesn't get electrocuted. That's the goal there. And so I put it together for them, and it's going to help a lot of their patients. It's going to help them regain skills. When you have a brain injury, you forget things you once knew, or perhaps sometimes your hands don't move like you thought you would. I mean, we've all probably seen someone with a stroke. You know, half their body it can be really weak or clumsy, or it can be completely paralyzed. And think about it, if your right hand was gone, how would you have to relearn to do everything? Can you imagine trying to get dressed with just one hand? You should try it. It's an adventure. And so we help them. We help them learn how to do things one-handed. We help them perhaps strengthen that hand. If we do certain movements over and over and over, they can regain use of it. It all depends. And so this is going to help them gain back their skills. Some of these people are, in their 20s or 30s there. They've been, like the gentleman who was shot in the neck. He was only about, I think, 20. He was really young. He's got his whole life ahead of him. Hopefully, perhaps maybe not electrician's work, but something that he enjoys, they'll be able to teach. It'll also improve cognition. When you think about it, if your brain, you learn how to sequence things. Okay, well first I need to maybe get out the box, get the plug, maybe I gotta wire to it first. Some people struggle with that after a brain injury. They either don't know where to begin, they get overwhelmed, they can't sequence things properly, things that we take for granted. They struggle with. And so something like this that's kind of complicated, it can also be simplified. Like perhaps they'll just practice by wiring the plug first. Eventually move on to putting the faceplate and blocks together. It can be something that they can grow to work on, something that they can eventually perhaps do as a job once they leave the hospital. It also works on fine motor skills. We talked about how sometimes the hand doesn't move quite the way it used to after a stroke or a brain injury. So, here's a little hole right here that they have to put a screw in and use the screwdriver to screw in. That's a fine motor skill. Anything you use with your hands that's kind of delicate, not just your gross arm movement. Anything of that they'll need to work on. So that's kind of what my electrician's kit is and how it's going to help people. And there's the kit spade, where it's going to go. It's going to be given to IMC, the place that I did my field work at. I'm going to donate it to them, and they're going to use it for their patients, I hope. It's hopefully going to be something that they can use for years to come. There's 30 feet of wire in here. It should last a while. And it's going to help their patients on their recovery. It's going to especially give the men an option, something to do besides, scrapbooking and crocheting. And so this is something I gained a lot from. Something that increased my thinking skills. I had to sit down. We had no idea. We had like a little vague article of what an occupation kit was, a couple of different ideas, and it's like, okay, well, how do we put this together? I had to sit with my supervisor. We had to think, well, what would an electrician's kit need? I had to go home and bug my husband. Honey, what else do I need? And then I called my dad to double check. And so I had to think about these things. I had to not only think about what an electrician kit would need, but what would be beneficial in the clinic. What would be something that they could use. We actually, for the wire, you probably can't see, but it's just a single copper thread. And a lot of them are bunches of little wires wrapped together. We thought about that, but they're like, wait a minute. You're working with people that have disabilities, and those fine little shreds, A, they're going to get everywhere, and people that have to clean up are going to hate them. And two, they get sharp. And those little tiny bits of wire, it's probably not the best idea, so we went with a single strand. We had to think of things like that. I had to start thinking as a therapist would think. What do they need? How could they use it? And also, it was really good just to give back to the clinic that gave so much to me. I learned a ton. In the program, we were taught a lot of concepts, a lot of different ideas. This is what you should do. This is how you do it. But to me, it all felt very theory. About, okay, I kind of get that. But to be able to go to this clinic and see it, like, oh, cool. We learned about that last week. Cool, we're learning about that this week. I can sound smarter than my peers. It was so cool to learn these things, to apply them, to understand how to do documentation. And so this is something I wanted to give back to them. I wanted to give them something nice, and I couldn't afford this. I'm poor. But to be able to use some funds to give them something nice. A lot of my peers, they did wonderful things, but they're also cheap things, because they don't have money either. I was grateful to get something that really helped them. And so, I also was able to gain skills to do a proposal. That was really a growing experience for me. I'm sure as we work in a clinic, there's going to be limited funds. There's going to be funds that we're going to have to request for. In the medical field, there's not just money lying around, even though they do charge us an arm and a leg. So I'm going to have to be able to request funds. I'm going to have to say why we need this, why it's going to help our clients. And so this is a great way to simulate that, a way to justify what am I doing and why. And so that was my project. It was a lot of fun and I enjoyed it. Is there any questions that someone has? Lisa.
I have a question.
Good.
My question for all of you, so you as the person who is given funding through the service learning service learning student project fund, would you encourage your fellow classmates and the other students in your program to apply for this funding in the future?
I will. I'll tell them it's not as scary as it sounds. Initially when we got the email, I think they felt a little overwhelmed. Like, we had to write a proposal, we had to do this, do that. You know, I'm just going to do something on my own. Because we do feel really busy in the program. There's a lot that's asked of us. So I'm going to tell them it's not that bad. Just throw together a proposal. It's not as hard as you think it is, and then ask for funds. I think it's definitely an option for them, and I'm going to tell them it's something that they can do. And it's going to really benefit them. They can get more creative. They can use more thoughts than, okay, what do I have around the house that I can give? Because a lot of them did just pull things from their house, which is great. It's very creative. There is more that they can do. I'd like to encourage them to do that.
And when are you scheduled to deliver your pit?
Today. I live in Pleasant Grove, so it's on the way home. It's good to go. I see no reason to wait any longer, so it's going there today.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Yes.
The OTA program, for people that don't know, is in an engaged department, which means pretty much every class is a service learning class. So it's not just a one-off, it's like a consistent experience that they're having in all the different classes. And I'm wondering, it might be hard to answer since that is the case, but your thoughts about service learning being integrated into the curriculum that way, and if you see the benefit or if you can see it happening any other way in your OTA's program.
Basically how service learning is in my other classes, is that what you're
Or
asking?
is it, or what are the benefits or the challenges to having it so integrated into everything you're thinking?
I have seen it in my other classes. I have a class where we learn about different diseases and different ways to treat those diseases. We invited someone to come in and basically experience the treatment that we give. It was kind of a fun one. It's called a paraffin dip, and basically, for those of you, I think they do it in nail salons a lot, where they dip your hand in the wax and it feels really good. It's something that we use to treat arthritis because it loosens things up. That was one way that we did that. We educated someone on what it is and what occupational therapy is. And another one was we actually went to the Diesel Technology Center up in Meadowbrook and taught them different ways to protect their body. There's a lot of bending, stooping, twisting, repetitive moments, and it's going to beat up their bodies. And so that was a service learning that we did to teach them how to protect themselves. They may not have thanked us for pulling them out of their projects that day, but if they learned anything, they'll thank us later. And so that was different ways that we incorporated service learning in my other classes. It's definitely something that helps us to be able to learn. Something, like I said, with this, a lot of what we learn about is theory. And so being given the opportunity to do service learning, to get out of the classroom and to learn, not only with this, but like with the body mechanics. We learned about, okay, this is what you look for. But to be able to go there and see, oh yeah, that dude's hunching, he shouldn't be doing that. He's kind of in a funny, awkward position, this is going to hurt him how? And so doing these opportunities like service learning, being able to go out and give, really helps a lot. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it's good.
Okay, is there anything else?